Come on. Oh. What initially seemed like a good idea has now made it almost impossible to put our tomato cages inside of these raised beds. And to make matters even worse, we have plants in here that need trellises. There's no way there's a trellis going inside of these things. So we bought some fairly large raised beds on Amazon that measure 8 feet by 4 feet by 2 feet deep. And we went with the 2 foot deep ones because we just thought, well, that'll be more ergonomic for us rather than working in a 1 foot raised bed. They're like way deeper than what we had ever imagined. And we thought, you know what, we don't want to waste a bunch of material just to fill these things up. Let's try to find a cheaper way to do it that's more efficient. We looked around, we found a lasagna bed. Well, that's great. That is exactly what we decided we're going to do. We started layering in some cardboard in the bottom. We added in some split logs from a tree that we had cut up last year. Added in some brush and twigs from that tree as well. Topped it off with a layer of grass clippings and then threw in about 8 to 12 inches of a mixture of topsoil and compost. Now, what we didn't think about, and nobody really made a mention of it, was how difficult it would be to put things like tomato cages and even trellises inside of a lasagna bed. Let me show you what we've got going on here. As you can see here, I've already got one broken tomato cage. And because of all those nice materials underneath that made these beds much more cheap to fill, the legs of these tomato cages really don't have anything to bite into. You can just see they pretty much wiggle right out of there. So unfortunately, we had to come up with a slightly more expensive idea than what we had initially planned. And we're not really even sure if it's going to work yet, or if it's going to work at all. Let me show you what we have planned. So we have about 4 feet between these two raised beds, and what we're thinking is that we'll be able to build an arched trellis. We went out to our local Tractor Supply and we got a couple of cattle panel, and we're going to drive in some fence posts here, and we're going to see if this is actually going to work. So because each one of our cattle panels are about 50 inches wide and our beds here are 96 inches long, we're planning that we're going to have about 4 inches of overlap. So we're going to just stick a T-post in the corner of each bed and then one right in the middle where our cross brace is. All right, so we got all of our T-posts driven in, 6 of them. We're gonna get a little bit of a bend going to our cattle panel here.
Just flip her up.
These cattle or livestock panel were absolutely perfect for this project because the panel openings were not uniform in size. There were actually 4-inch openings on one side, and that's the side that we kept toward the center T-post because that's exactly how much we needed to overlap these panels to create a 96-inch long trellis that matched the length of our raised beds. So using that little 4-inch wide opening was a great gauge to measure our overlap without having to use any other measuring tools, which also sped this project up. Now, don't let me fool you. I do talk about how easy this project is going together, but I mean that only relative to projects that we've done in the past. There was nothing easy about driving in those T-posts, and for best results, this is a 2-person job.
All right, so there we go. We got one cattle panel installed. We have one more to go. Let's see, it's going pretty easily so far. Now, even though putting that cattle panel in the first one was easy, we still got to figure out if this is actually going to work for our plants yet. Go up.
There you go. Watch yourself so you don't get pinched. I think you got her. Looks pretty decent, huh?
All right, that should be it. All right, now the next thing we need to do is put our T-post clips on these T-posts. I don't know how easy this is going to be. They do make a special tool for this. We opted not to get it because we thought we could just use a screwdriver. So we may have just made this more difficult on ourselves. Or not.
Now, since my camera person and I weren't in very good sync on that last T-post clip, I just wanted to show this to you from a different angle on how easy it really is to use the screwdriver. This was kind of surprising because they do make a specialized tool for this process, but honestly, we proved that you don't even need it. This is just as easy right here. And then we just took that extra pigtail of wire from the T-post clip and bent it around with the channel locks. We just did this to make sure that it was plenty secure, and then we also wanted to wrap it up so nobody could catch their skin on it and rip their skin open, because that would be a bad day in the garden.
That was because we did it stupid.
Now, right after we got that T-post clip all nicely wound up, I realized we made a bonehead mistake. And instead of tying down the inside panel, we tied down the outside panel, which left the inside panel flopping loose. So we ended up having to take that T-post clip back off, and then we tied down the inside panel, which then pinched the outside panel up against the T-post and held everything securely in place.
So we are all done tying this trellis up. Look at this. This is pretty cool. You can walk right underneath of this thing. It's gonna be really neat once we start getting plants that we actually have going up all the way over the trellis. But I need to show you something else that's really cool. Because this trellis worked out so well, we actually put up another one over here. And this one actually has plants that are alongside it that are actually long enough to start coming through. We have our cherry tomatoes pulled through here already. This is going to work out so perfect. We put all of our plants, we were hoping we were going to be able to find some sort of a trellis that worked here, and this is going to be just fine. That's why we put these plants right near the edges of the bed. We didn't know we were going to do the arch trellis yet. That was just something that kind of popped into our heads. Let's try it out, and by golly, it worked. We got some more cherry tomato plants over here already being pulled through the trellis. We've got our gourd loofahs. They're already starting to wrap up pretty nice. And then we've got our bed of peas over here that will eventually be vining through our trellis as well. So I think we finally have the raised bed problems beat. I don't think there's anything else possibly that we could have go wrong with these things anymore. We've got them filled cheaply. We have all 4 of them built, all 4 of them replaced, and we have trellises for all of them. And as for the tomato cages, well, you know, they are what they are. But I did find out that I can shove a fiberglass rod down through these beds a little bit easier than the actual tomato cages themselves. So if we have to, we'll just get some stakes with the little stem clips and then clip our tomato plants up to the fiberglass rods. If you have large raised beds that you're looking to fill efficiently and cheaply, then make sure you check out this next video right here where you can see the entire process of how we put this lasagna bed together, or hugelkultur bed. They're both pretty much the same thing.